to do a form JavaScript today. We're going to be pushing items into arrays within a JavaScript object. We're going to start off with a little cleanup, and then we're going to start going into that process. So let me do a little bit of cleanup for our address, phone, and email so they look nice and pretty. I'm going to be using the grid system from Bootstrap. So bear with me while I make these quick changes to the front page. And as you can see, we want it to look nice on mobile, so we got to do it using the Bootstrap utilities and the grid. So we also want to give our map ID a key, because the users are going to be able to get their own key, and so that's going to be the important part of this. They can't use mine, and only registered for the certain sites I use. So once you have yours in there, all these things will come into play. That path use key there will be correct all the time. We just need the key in there. And of course we would have to put in the address of the restaurant so that this will all work. And it's something that we'll be using quite a bit. So yeah, make sure you read up on the Google's documentation to get Google Maps, and just apply for the credentials for a map, and they'll give you a key generate, and it'll generate a key for you, and then you tell it what sites you want to request this from, and that way that they'll just give you what you need from there. Now my social media that I was using in the footer of my games, we're going to bring that into our object so that we can manipulate it, and we can put our own social media, whatever we use, it doesn't have to match this, in there. And we'll be doing that by telling what the link address is, and what the class is based on Font Awesome 5.2, and then the title. And so if you don't have a LinkedIn account, of course, but you've got a TikTok or whatever, that'll be fine. Just put in Font Awesome, you type in that, and we'll use it later on here to find some icons, and you'll know how to go ahead and find your social media icon at that point. And so we will apply all this stuff that we're talking about, and there's a lot of the syntax that needs to be correct. We need to draw a path to where that information is in the object. And I'm going through the rest of it to see how we're looking. Now we're working locally, so a lot of the things won't be working because we're not on the actual website. But that's okay, because I don't need to have that stuff working to get this stuff done. And as soon as we catch up with all the stuff I'm doing, I'm just going to go ahead and push it right now. And then we can get to what our main goal is, which is getting the content management system together. Like I said, I'm going to start off with everything that's an array. It'll be one function. And then we'll do a case switch throughout this function to see, is it the events, or is this a banner, so on and so forth. And then it'll build out accordingly. And so what I'm going to be doing here, obviously the front end needs to be put together for that social media as well. And all in all, this is I think about a good half and half of HTML, and then JavaScript kind of checking and making sure that we have the correct names of the input fields and whatnot. That's always important. And I can see that there'll be some misspellings here. And software is never finished, as I always say. So get ready for, me working through this and then finding out that Font Awesome is not spelled like that. But I'll leave there we go, I'll fix that, and I'm going to leave the link so people can get to know Font Awesome. Now you can have a service, and it's a service that you can pay for, but there are also some free icons too. So don't get too wound up in all the charges if you don't want to. I've never actually paid for Font Awesome. I just use the free stuff. But I do plug them quite a bit. As long as I can use that stuff, it's great with me. Now, obviously, within your head, you'll be doing the links, which you'll find out here later. Those are not available in my admin HTML just yet, and it is a hassle that I find would have been solved very easily by putting the links in the head to Font Awesome. So remember to do that. Okay, so let's get to that admin page where we were. We do have it in debugger mode, so every time it stops, I'll go and figure out what it's talking about. Here I am putting in the social media account information and kind of moving things around. And as you can see, it's down towards the bottom. It's quite a bit going on in this form, but I don't think it's still user friendly. I don't think that as long as you go from step by step from the top to the bottom, you'll be fine. Now, one of the biggest important things about forms is your validation. We just want to make sure that someone has actually put something in there at the very minimum into the input fields before we actually hit submit. Now, being that we're building like an array of many things, like an object, now we're going to be doing a lot of testing on multiple fields. And so the way that this validate function works is we send it a list, and we send it an array within the argument. And then from there, we go and do a for loop through this list, and it could just be one, or it could be many. And we go to see if there's something written in that input field, and we're going by the input field's name. Now, sometimes it's not an input field, sometimes it's a text area. And that being the case, we're just going to be going by the name attribute. This is an HTML concept that is widely used as the name being the identifier of these input fields. So always remember that the best way to identify an input field is name equals, and then your HTML will abide by that and remember things automatically. And so when you start typing, it'll say, oh, I remember this input field's name, and then it'll automatically start populating it. So if you play by their rules, it makes it a lot easier as opposed to putting an ID in an input field. Now, sometimes you have to, but I wouldn't do that unless you absolutely have to. So name, use that attribute in the input fields. Here's where we're going to do a try catch to see if there's a value for it, and if not, we'll go ahead and put an error. And since this is a for loop, it's going to check everything that it was sent in that array. And at the end, it's going to find out, hey, is there any errors? Because we cleared out the errors first, all the things with class error, and then we just went and sniffed around to see if anything is in there and to add more. And if there's any more, then clearly we've got a problem here, and that's when I'll do the global alert, and then I'll do a return false after I've given them the message of what's wrong and what input field is missing. So let's go ahead and start putting this function together. We can go on another page to go ahead and do that. I think what I certainly do is do like a whole nother JavaScript file here shortly. But for now, let's go ahead and see how I get started. Yeah, see how I'm building that array out? It's like I'm just going to check all those fields. Now, when it comes to doing a select menu, we'll have the first value be default, and when that comes into play here, obviously we'll say, hey, is this a default? If so, then it's always going to have it'll have the same reaction as if there was nothing there. But we'll get to that point. We won't get that in this video. Now, I do spend quite a bit of time messing around with the theme. What I want to do in this application is just on the admin form, you get to choose the theme. And that saves it into the JSON object, and then when we plug the JSON object into the application, it will find that theme and apply it once it gets loaded in. And so I'm actually kind of simplifying it because it was rather complicated the way I took it from the game that I had written. So you'll see me take a whole bunch of that code and shut it down, backtrack it, and we don't need it. We're doing something simpler. So watch me kind of manage getting through this old code from a couple years back and only just kind of picking out what I need so that whenever the user chooses what kind of theme they want, it will be applied on the actual admin folder page, because that will give them an opportunity to see what it looks like, as you can see here. And it's still stuck right now. So I'm going to go hunt down why. And in the footer, you can see that there's some contradictory stuff, the reason why it's doing it. So we have a default. We need to kind of take it out. And the real default's in the HTML. So what we're going to do is actually go into the HTML, and then, yeah, this is a real mess. I mean, I've got choose theme, or chosen theme, and then I've which theme. It ends up being kind of confusing here, as you can see. So I start changing things up. Yeah, so it's not showing anything just yet, but I'll be moving around the JavaScript until we get it on this page, and we also need to name everything correctly as well. So all the JavaScript matches up with the actual drop-down list and the link to the href for the CSS file. It's still not working, so I'll keep digging. Yeah, and also at this point, we'll be taking out the theme from the top of the URL. We won't be passing it through there anymore because it's going to be coming directly from the local store, or the local object that we use for the restaurant. Okay, so now it looks like the themes are starting to be applied correctly. And obviously, we're going to need Bootstrap, or Font Awesome as well in there. So there's quite a bit missing from our head or admin. And so slowly we'll be able to put those in there, and we need to also make some nice spacing for the titling. So I like to use card class to kind of wrap things up and make them look tidy. And that way they'll be, the title will have a background behind it. Okay, so let's go ahead and bring in a place for this title, and then we'll wrap this whole form in a card so that it looks nice. There you go. And it's just looking a little more like it needs some spacing, so I'll go ahead and put some padding in there at a 3 for the y-axis. And it looks like we're just going to need it for all the x-axis too. So I'll head back in there and do that. Or we could just actually put it together in what is supposed to be the grid system. It's actually not yet currently, so once we put that grid system together in there, the padding will just show up automatically. So let's just go ahead and get this thing built correctly. Within the row, you'll start putting your columns, and then you'll have your padding here in a second. Oh, maybe the title takes away from it. Oh, maybe so. Yeah, so let's just give it the padding of 3 on all the axes, and then you can see that it's doing that correctly. So the title looks like it belongs there now. Great. No reason to worry about those. We're not going to be using those calls just yet for this tutorial. So let's get back onto the theme, and let's just get this thing working the way we want it. Probably would have been easier just to start from the beginning. of the theme and not a copy from somewhere else and bring it in, because it just looks like it's more trouble than it's worth. But since we're already here, well, let's go ahead and watch me clean this up. Now, since we're running all this JavaScript, it would work great on the page that it's intended for, but since the admin page doesn't have the map and all these things where it's calling out to be applied, data to be targeted towards, we got to tell it, if this doesn't exist on the page, then don't do anything. We can also tell it, if this is the edit page or the admin page, don't do it. So you'll see me use a couple of different strategies so that we don't have these kind of JavaScript errors when they're trying to apply some kind of data to a target, like a string or something that I've made, and it's not going to be in existence, but it's still going to read the JavaScript. So the JavaScript's going to be like, hey, I'd love to put this information where you said it is, but that place doesn't exist, and so I'm now going to throw an error. We're just going to get around that with all sorts of, hey, if this thing we're looking for doesn't exist, then don't do anything. Fairly simple, but we can start working now on submitting an object into an object, which is, we're going to start off with submitting to the local. And so I've got a new file called adminform.js, and I put the thing here. And I'm just making a list of all the things that will be objects put into our main object. So as you can see, I'm not going to use this array, but I'm going to build it out so that I have a list of what I'll be using. And so I'm just going to go through our HTML and look for every place where this function is called out, and then I need to know, okay, well, what is this object going to be named, so that I know where I need to slide it into the main object. And you'll just see me going from one place to the next, getting those pieces of data and those names out. Yeah, so we're going to do a switch case. Now, the switch case is going to be based on which array is. So in case it's nav links, then we'll do one thing. In case it's banners, we'll do another. In case it's media, we'll do quite a bit. But like I said, the switch case is very similar to what you would be using. You could just do a whole bunch of if statements as well. But this is a pretty straightforward protocol for a switch case, and it works well here. And so I think it's really easy to read and really easy to follow. And I think if I were to do it this way, it looks a little bit better, as opposed to a bunch of if statements that would be a little bit more kind of beginner, I might say. So switch cases are what I've chosen. And so I'm basically looking after the original data, so I know kind of how to model this thing. And as you can see, it's fairly easy. You just have this object and you tell it where you'd like to apply this. You want to push something into an object as well. You just tell it where that thing resides, and I'll make this object locally currently, and it'll be right above this function. So you'll see me here in a second how I build this out. And originally I did it this way, and then I changed it to push, which works fine too. Yeah, because navlinks is just it's just going to be a simple array. Nothing too serious. Fairly easy one to get started on. And so if it's navlinks that's been suggested that we're going to input something, we will validate just the navlinks field, and then it's going to say if there are no errors, then we'll go ahead and push this new one onto the navlinks list. And navlinks just resides inside an object. And so I'm going to build an object called temp restaurant, and I'm going to basically copy it from our original config. And then I'm going to take out all the all the values, so that we're just left with the keys and an empty value. And this will be our data model. So it's just a JSON object. And then we'll be pushing our stuff into this, and then eventually we'll be using it so you can download it. And then we'll have it to where the user can upload it to their static file, or their static website, and that will be their database. So they'll be building out their own database, and then they'll publish it into a JSON file, and then that JSON file will be uploaded, and then we'll do an async await API call anytime that thing is ever requested. So instead of a database, you'll have a JSON file that you created from this content management system. Pretty neat, huh? And we, like I said, software's never finished, so we'll just build it out until it becomes what we really want. And these are all just pieces of the puzzle, all getting put together slowly. Now, this wouldn't take too long to actually put together, but since I'm filming it and having to go one section at a time, and then I have to go over and narrate it, it does take quite a bit of time. But we'll get there. I've done other large projects in the past, these last few years, and they eventually come to an end as well, and I'll move on. So be patient with me, and we'll watch this thing come alive. And hopefully we'll save small businesses some money so that they don't have to have a database in the future and nothing that can get hacked. And this will just be something safe that they can understand. And something they can change up the data too. Like if they want to, they can just publish out a new piece of JSON file, and they'll be able to upload that, and then it will move on. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, still brainstorming on the best way to handle the theme. You'll watch me go through back and forth with a bunch of ideas. It's a pain in the butt trying to work with something that was built before. It's better to just start from scratch, in my opinion. Yeah, that's the problem, is that it's got Space Lab already written in it, so that's going to be a problem. Yeah, well, we'll watch and see what happens. Now I'm putting the footer into the admin page as well, so that we can have a little bit of the same familiar look and feel of our framework. Right, so I'm going to go through, and the about and the restaurant name will probably be mentioned multiple times, so doing a for each sounds best for these, in case they get mentioned more than once. And if they're not mentioned at all, it won't be a problem. It'll just kind of skip them. So we'll go ahead and watch me do that. But these are IDs, so we'll see what I end up doing, because there's only one. You can only have one ID at a time. So I think what I do is I just change them to class, because now you can have multiple, and do a query selector all for the for each. Yeah, I'll just do it for the other one now too. Oh yeah, so I think I played around with this here too, and I initially I just put the UL nav in this admin form and played around, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't really work. So as you can see, I do a little bit of kind of what I think is going to work for the nav links. As you can see, I do attempt to just put in the nav link here and see maybe this will suffice, and it does not. So enjoy as I kind of wrestle with what's the best way to describe, to input what we want each nav link to be. Because remember, these will be generating for our pages, basically. These are the names for our pages. Yeah, so we don't have those in there, so we don't need to actually use them at all, because it'll be null otherwise. And what we're asking is, if this thing exists, is it's kind of what they call truthy. So these carousels, data carousel equals image, if it'll come out as object if it's a real thing, and that means it's truthy, or it'll come out as null if it's not, and that means it's false. So to anybody who just wants to find out if something exists, and here I'm going to tell it data admin equals true. And here's another way to blanket kind of rule these functionalities. So we're going to say all together here, in this object, in this DOM, that's a document object model, does this selector exist? And if so, run all these. Or I'm sorry, if it doesn't exist, we're going to run all these. And if it does, we'll just say we're in admin mode. And that's the way you can kind of blanket rule some of these other functions that you just don't want to go through and say each one, does this exist, does this exist? You can just say, hey, we're in edit mode, so don't worry. And it'll skip all those, so I don't have to keep going. Because it was yelling at me. And we'll also bring in the functionality that it's only for those pages as well. So we just want to fire off those functions on the index page. We don't need them on the admin page. So as you can see, I'm going to slide those into my condition, and so that we don't skip a beat. Yeah, it's fun being in debug mode. It just stops everything I'm doing and tells me I have to stop and go do something. So I hope it doesn't drive you crazy. It was certainly driving me crazy. But as you can see, it's not reading the file for the boots and for the style sheet, so we'll go ahead and then fix that. It's being redundant, and we don't want to do that. There we go. And as you can see, yeah, those links will show up if you want them to, but they're not really doing me any good, because we want to be able to build something here, and right now they're just writing in the current ones. Yeah, so fun as it may be and easy as it may be, I'll be taking that out. And we'll be using the target. And then once we're ready, once we've been pushing these new items into the object, we'll go ahead and do a for loop so that they are represented for us. It's fairly simple. We're going to build out a string that's empty, and then as they iterate through all the ones we've built, we'll generate this string out for us to see. Yeah, this is how we always do them. We're just going to build out a simple, maybe some badges or something. Yeah, right now it's just the actual, whatever we've typed in one after another. So we need to clear out that nav links target, and then we'll get to working on it. Yeah, validate, not defined. You got to get the file connected at the bottom. You have to put the query selector all is what I'm going to need to put in there. Very important. Like, it's very common that I forget to do that when I'm doing a for each. It's an easy mistake. Yeah, I'll get to it. There. Much better. Yeah, so I'm just doing a little poking around to see where we're having errors and what's working and what's not. Generally, when I do console log, it's really just kind of doing a step-by-step process of where did this actually stop. It's a slow move, but it is methodical in its step of where did this thing work out. Oh, and not only that, my button didn't have the actual on click. It was on the field, so that's definitely wrong. Glad I was able to fix that. Yeah, that'd be helpful. Yeah, I start making a little bit more of a fashion. I want to make sure that I have a badge here, so it looks a little nicer. So I'm going to break out Bootstrap and make sure I get the syntax right for the badge. But it'll look a lot better. And then I'm also going to do push here because it's just easier for me. And then I'm just putting into an array, so I don't need brackets and I don't need squirrely brackets. But we do need to have the correct class name for making the correct button or the badge. So BG-secondary is going to be kind of a gray look for a badge. And once we put this link value in there, you'll see what I mean. And let's go ahead and do a console log so we know that the field has something in it too. I want to see that value firsthand. Yeah, so the field value is showing up, but it doesn't like nav links. Let's do another console log and figure out what nav links is showing up as. It doesn't look like it is. I'm just making sure I'm spelling everything right. Still doesn't like it. But the field, the value in the field is showing up. So let's go ahead and just do a test nav to see if that works. I just want to do a console.log and see if that even shows up. Yeah, it's working. So it's the right path to it. Oh, yeah, okay, I see where it is. Undefined. Yeah, you just need to put the end of the links target. I do get to see that. Nav links needs to be on 42 after the 1 in the brackets. Yeah. And then we have to tell it there. Alright, so now we have the default one and the one we typed. Cool. So it's starting to work now. And now we need to do the other case of or whatever else we want to put in its own object within this object. So we'll basically use the same strategy for the next ones. I'll just do a little bit more to make sure that's working. So these will be our main navigation links up here. So let's go on with the background banner. Now I put some thought into what I wanted to do with this. Do we want a Jumbotron, or we just want to use this as the background? And what I'm going to do later on is put like a radio button. And so if you click the radio button saying, yes, I want a Jumbotron, then the text will turn into the text in your Jumbotron, and then the image will be in your Jumbotron. Otherwise, it'll just be the background and the text won't show. So I will do my best to remember, but we'll make it to where the text isn't a required field, because it's not going to go anywhere if you're just doing the background image. And I just got to change these out. But we'll be doing it the same fashion as we did the other one. And when we want to have the banners target down here. And what I'm going to do actually is we'll make the banners be an image so you can see a thumbnail of the banner you uploaded, and then we'll have a little delete button right there as well. Now within this video I won't be making the delete button. I haven't this has about 3 hours of me typing, and I've shrunk it down to about a little over an hour. So it is quite a bit of work. So I will throw it in probably one of the latter videos, so that we will be doing more form work in these future videos as well. It's the biggest part, probably the content management of the whole application. Everything else is kind of fun. When you start working with the actual forms, then it's real work. You start having to go through certain protocols of validation, and then obviously we're starting off with just the adding of elements into an object, and that's fine and dandy, but when we want to edit them and we want to delete them as well. So we're just getting started, really. The editing parts, we're going to use the same form as we're using currently for the ad, so that saves a ton of writing. It'll just be when we do a select from a drop-down menu, it'll populate all the fields automatically with the one we selected, and then we'll be able to edit from there. So here I just want to get the class image thumbnail prepared, because that's how I'm going to represent my images, is from Bootstrap's example. And so when we have the images we'd like to upload for the background, you'll see what I'll do. I'll make a little thumbnail. And then we'll do the same thing for YouTube videos, because the YouTube videos, their thumbnails are named with the ID of the video. So if we have the ID of the video, then we can actually show the thumbnail of the video too. So it comes in handy. And you'll just pay attention. That's in this video. That's in this tutorial. So bear with us, and we'll keep this moving. And we will have a whole series of these working shortly. So this will be fun. Yeah, when I do a pasting, it always messes up my spacing, as you can see. So I'm gonna come in and fix this. Get this back into the right syntax. Yeah, you gotta make sure you have everything spelled right, obviously. You don't want to break your string. And so here I've had the alt tag be the banner HTML, which is fine. So we can have it in there too. And it looks like I am validating it. So you got to fill it in and it'll show up in the alt tag. But that'll be good for SEO. So even if it doesn't show up and you don't have a Jumbotron, the SEO will pick up what you've written. And that'll be helpful for you to find people. People will find you. Now, as you can see, I'm typing in a button. I don't have the function delete banner just yet, or delete item just yet. What I'm doing is I'm passing it the iteration, and I'm also passing it the object key, so that I'll know which ones I want to delete once that thing is in order. So I'm going to pass it a couple arguments to make sure that it gets identified correctly. Yeah, and so a lot of times the global alert is going to be very similar. I just need to do the wording so that they know what I'm talking about. But this is the beauty of having global alert is it's a global, and you just tell it what kind of color scheme you want based on the naming convention of Bootstrap, and then okay, away we go, and a nice return false after. And so we're going to go and see how we're running on GitHub. And then from here, we'll just do a couple tests to make sure that the image is working. And I don't remember it working the first time, but bear with us. And obviously, I need to make sure that it's named correctly. Yeah, banners array HTML, better. Yeah, it's a little messed up. I'm filling out the value field. Unfortunately, that's incorrect, so I'll do a little working on it, and you can see the object is being built though. I got an image and a banner HTML. That's what's being produced. So let's go look at what's going on. Yeah, so banner's image is filling up with the actual HTML. That's incorrect. We want the target to fill up. Banner's target needs to have the banner's array HTML. There we go. And the other one needs to be cleared out, just like we did. Yeah, that works better. And so we'll do a hard reload and we'll start working again. There we go. So there's the image, and like I said, I had the delete banner option there, but it doesn't work just yet. And we'll get rid of all that text that looks a little silly. So I'm going to put an icon in there for a little trash can. So we'll get to play around with font awesome here shortly. But as you can see, this is how it goes. You'll be uploading images, and then you'll have the ability to curate them. Now, here's my font awesome integration. I'm just going to go to version 5, get myself a trash can. Here's the class that I need to apply to it, the FAS. And so I'm going to take out all this text over here, and we'll make it easier for ourselves by making a trash can. Now, it's a span. And as always, I want to paste something, I've got to re-space it. But it'll look nice once I get it in there. A quick, get ready, because I forgot to put the links to the font awesome in the head of the admin.html. So a lot of this is going to be me just wondering why it doesn't work. And it's very, very simple. You always have to remember to put the links to the font awesome in the head of your HTML file, or you get no font awesome, just like everything else. So here, watch me screw around. And I'm also putting in my delete option within the trash can. So eventually that'll turn into a button and so on and so forth. So it'll look a lot nicer. But, we got to get started somewhere. And the icon does look nice. Now remember, when we're doing the media, there are 4 different types. You've got images, then you've got YouTube videos, and then you've got text, HTML, or then you have like a map. These are all content pieces that you can put in. The rich text, it's especially powerful. However, when we're putting these in, we're going to have multiple different places where they're going to be compiled. And so we're also going to be showing them in multiple different places. Just like visually, you wouldn't see them separate. Otherwise, it's very confusing. So as these things compile, one at a time, I'm going to be doing this. You'll see that they will be split up. So as we input them, they will go into a different list and they will be represented separately. Now we can start anywhere we want, but it's a tedious job, but it will get done no problem. Yeah, so your images, we'll have those laid out in a list group. And I'll put these here so I remember what their names are in the naming convention. That's kind of what I'm doing. I just want to know I have them correct. Because we're going to go in one at a time. Yeah. It's very similar to what we did a minute ago with the nav links. We just gotta, once it's something submitted, we just push it, and then we just roll through a for loop to make sure that they're all generated so you can kind of see where you stand. And along with it, we'll have, in the future, we'll have some delete options as well. And we'll also remember that we need to go ahead and put in the right class for image thumbnail. That's an important part of this too, so that it doesn't get too big. These images will be huge otherwise. There we are. So based on what the type is, we will be going through this as a loop, but based on the type, we can always do something different. And here's how I go ahead and utilize the YouTube thumbnails. And I'm hunting down the actual YouTube or the thumbnails currently. So get ready. There. This is just a generic one. And as you can see, when we get to the YouTube video and the thumbnail are intertwined based on their ID. So watch slowly as I show you exactly how to manipulate this to work for you. When we do the image, and right here, we're going to tell it the source. This is the YouTube ID. And so if the type equals YT video, this is what we'll do. And then we put the YouTube video right here in the middle, and then JPG, and make sure that it's the correct address or ID. And this is how they generate this is where all their files naming convention works. And so the next one's going to be HTML, and we'll do the same thing. Yeah, so we'll just be putting these together one at a time. They're all using the same for loop, so that's helpful. We do something differently based on whatever the type equals. But this is a very fast, efficient way to do it. And we define the type based on the admin has a drop-down menu, so that's how that's figured out. And the drop-down menu has images, YouTube video, HTML, or of course map. And that's how we figure out the type. Make sure everything's spelled correctly. And then lastly, we'll do the maps. Yeah, so the maps one's just going to be addresses, so it's fairly simple, just a list group item. Same with the HTML. And the other ones will be just images, and we're just wrapping them in the rest of what the image tag looks like. And then, of course, at the end, we'll just be spitting out their target's HTML. That's great. So let's just see if it works. We'll get a couple of the icons from some of my stuff from my website, from my YouTube. And we'll make sure the on-click is in the right place. It was actually in the input field. That's no good. So we'll make sure that's not there, and make sure everything's in the right place, and submit to local and tell it it's media from the button. It looks like we had an extra input field for no reason. So, okay, we're better off now. Yeah, it's not working just yet, so let's get that right. It looks like that path is broken. And the debugger has stopped us again. But I can see that the object is being built out, so that's helpful. Okay, so closer. Not 100% yet. There we go. Now we'll be able to get it from here. That's the default. That's it. We're looking for that path. Good. I'll just get it from the heading. And then we'll clear these out when they've been done correctly. There we go. So HQ default, we need that as the name of the file, and then the actual ID is part of the path. Okay, so it worked, but it's too big. So we got to get the class in there of image fluid, image thumbnail. Yeah. Just put it into the image tags. There, that looks a lot better. And the same thing needs to go for the image as well. It needs to have the img-thumbnail. And then we'll clear out the media address as well. Try it again. Okay, so that makes more sense. And now it deciphers between YouTube videos and images. And I'll just do a standard paragraph tag, or let's make it italics. So that works with the HTML rich text. And then we'll put in an address. 1060 West Addison would be Wrigley Field. Looks like it's busted, but we'll go fix that up too. Yeah, so we have an error. We'll just go find it out real quick and figure out what it is. Can't have that. Yeah, I was telling it let when it was already declared earlier. So let was already somewhere else. So let's try this again. We'll do an image and we'll do a YouTube video, and then we'll start doing HTML, and then we'll put in an address as well and see if that works. So far, so good. Yeah, we're doing 2 of them, so it's not deleting anything. It's working fine. It's building an array and then pushing it to the object. That's what we want. All right, we've got that address working. Let's wear the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. Let's find out what that address is, and we'll throw that in there just for fun. Yeah, okay, so now we've got the events. We've got these pieces of content are all working. Your Google Maps and your HTML content, your YouTube IDs, and your images. So that's cool. And then let's move that trash over to those other guys as well, because we'll use it on all of them. Yeah, it looks like it's working. That's good. But the thing is, the delete item, this is where it comes into play. I don't have the font awesome links in the top, so we're going to need that. And then I'm also going to wrap these font awesome icons in a button, and then you put the on click within that button. So that is more what they're built for. Yeah, it's not there yet, and it's a fairly easy fix. It hasn't occurred to me yet, so bear with me while I'm putting this. I go in there and adjust the head of my HTML page to fix this. It just takes a minute for it to occur to me. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at everything, thinking, what is going on here? I know I don't need that pointer anymore now that they're in the wrapper of the button. Yeah, so here I go, copy and paste the viewport, or just the head in general from the HTML from the index. Just bring them in over here, and now you have the icon. The little trash can's working now. It's at the end, which makes it a little bit mismanaged, so I bring it over to the front. That way they're all kind of lined up correctly and lined up together. Yeah, so okay, now we can go ahead and try this again. 2 images, 2 YouTube IDs. That works good. Do another italics for HTML, rich content, rich text. All right, so we've got an address and 1060 West Addison. Let's try that again. Oh yeah, okay, so our content is working here. Right, so that hard-coded space lab needs to be taken out of the link and replaced with what we've chosen to be the name of the theme. This is a fairly easy one to apply to. You can do a set attribute, and then we'll do a reference to where we'd like to go. And when it says Space Lab, we will just put in the config active restaurant theme, and that'll be Cyborg here. Still not working. Space Lab. We're on the index page, and it's themed style with a D. Yeah, I'm starting to debate whether I need all this or not. We'll get there here in a second. Like I said, this is what you get for bringing in a whole bunch of code from another project and just seeing hopefully it works, and it does not. So Yeah. Okay, so now it's working. So it's taking it from the local store or local object now. Good. Now we got to make it work when we actually change the drop-down menu. Yeah, it's missing a D. There. Now it'll work. That one too. Yeah. So now when you switch it up on the drop-down menu, it applies to the whole page and will change the theme for you, so you can kind of see what you're dealing with. And this one is just going from the local object. So that works out great. All right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's do another case switch, and this time we'll be going through the events. So I'm going to go through the HTML, and there's 5 of these, and the next one we'll just work with is the events object. Now that we're missing the address, but we'll put that in here in a second. Then we've got date and time, contact, and details, address. So it's very similar to some of these other ones. It's an object that needs to be kind of built and then pushed into another object. So we'll do a break and we'll tell it. Right now it says media, but we'll have to change that to events eventually. And then so it'll decipher which array is, and then it'll determine what events need to be saved. So let's go ahead and do the same process of a for loop, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, so we'll want to push whatever the field values are into this temporary object. And then we're also going to be validating to make sure that they have something in the fields as well. And we're not being real specific on like what time and date it's supposed to look like. You can write whatever you want. Same with your contact. You can do an email, or you can do a phone number, but it is one of those where you have to have something. And I assume you'll be wanting to have the correct stuff because it's your site. So any malicious intent is probably doubtful. So let's just keep going with what we're going to push. You have to build an object out, and the keys and then the values will be what's in the input fields. Now details is going to be a text area, just to let you know. So it's not an input field type text. It's an element called text area. But it can also be applied to get the value from the name attribute as well. So that's helpful. And I'll just walk through all of these. So we'll do events address first, contact, date and time, title, and then details. And we'll validate all those in that order. And then from there, we'll find out if there was an error, and if so, we'll stop everything. If not, we'll push. And if there is one, we'll do our standard global alert with a warning and then a message. And it just says there's a field empty. No big deal. It'll make the field that's empty red, and the border will be red. And so that we can use our quotes, let's use the cancel for the quotes. All right, and then we'll do our events. We'll do a for loop through them all so we can apply the HTML and append to the HTML string. There we go. And then when we're done, we'll have the events target show all the HTML that we compiled. And let's build out what we're going to do. What we're going to do basically is within this line item, we're going to build another unordered list. So each one will be in their own unordered list. And it looks like I spelled temp wrong. I'm missing the T, but we'll go back in there. And once all these have been represented, it'll be fine. So let's just walk through this, and then I'll actually bring this down so we can add it to the next line, because it's going to be tough to read. So there we go. Yeah, now we're getting close to the end here. And then we'll do the address, kind of swap those around. All right, so let's try it out. I'm going to move these around, just try to put them the way that they're already designed on the object. With our favorite address again. And we'll just put something, just any kind of context to get this to work. It looks like it's working. Doesn't seem to be working just yet. Yeah, we'll keep working on this. Almost get there. The problem is I have case media up there at the top. It needs to be a case events on line 181. It's still working with that media above, and that doesn't help anything. So you'll see me argue with it for a few minutes and then fix it. Yeah, and then down here we'll just clear out all those values once they're done too. They don't need to have anything in them. You want to get that warm fuzzy that your submission works, so we'll clear out the fields. Yeah, that's not necessary because we have the break. And try this again. I don't think this one works out very well, but whatever, we'll keep working on it. Okay, so yeah, now I've noticed it needs to say events here. Now it'll work. A little bit better. We'll go ahead and start it up again, get some new addresses, new contact information, date and time. And it looks like a field name has got some kind of thing stopping us. And just make sure we have the right ones. Yeah, I'm just debugging. I'm trying to figure out where it's telling me that I don't have that field. Yeah, because it wasn't in it needs to have the I. The iteration number has to be represented. That's why it's not working. The for loop needs to have the iteration number. So let's try this one more time. Because you have to know which one it's talking about in the index. All right. Just put anything. So that works. Something's undefined. Yeah, so it's text area. Well, that's fine too. There, we have to have the details written down there too. So now it should be okay. Let's type it up one more time. Okay, that's good. Let's make another. And I think that we don't close the unordered list, and so I have to go in and close this once we show this. It's a little bit messed up. So let me go switch this up. It's supposed to be aligned correctly with a space between. Yeah, so it's a super easy fix. I'll come in and close my UL unordered list. And then I'll close the line item that was originally residing in. And we'll try it one more time. You see how that validation's working. We'll put in some contact information and a date and time. And let's just try it one more time. Let's do it once more so we know it's aligned correctly with multiple events. And it's just, there we go. Okay. So now we're submitting those. I hope you learned something. Thanks a lot.